There was a night when I hit rock bottom, fully convinced I had nothing left to live for and the world would be better off without me. But that moment ended up becoming the beginning of something I didn't see coming.
Whether you're seeking true stories, real-life Christian testimonies, uplifting moments, or just a little bit of hope, you can find it here. This is Kingdom Chronicles. Today we're sharing a testimony from someone who walked through years of pain. She walked through rejection and deep loneliness. Her story is raw, honest, and incredibly powerful. And if you're in a season where you feel broken or unseen, I pray that this brings hope to your heart. This is Sarafina's testimony.
I come from a Christian family, but honestly, my parents' relationship was very unstable. They were always fighting, and eventually, when I was about 9, they got divorced. At that age, I was very strong in faith. I was quite fortunate despite my parents' divorce. But I soon turned away from God. Big mistake. Never turn away from God because you're guaranteed to fall into darkness. My mom and dad were in court all the time fighting for custody of me and my brother. We both choose to live with my mom. We would stay with our dad for the weekend every 2 weeks, but he wasn't really a father or ever there for us. I soon started to act out and fight a lot with my mom, and one time I ran away. This went on for years. I hated it. In 2008, I took a severe asthma attack. It happened so quickly I was pretty scared. All I wanted to do was to close my eyes and sleep. I was in hospital for 6 days. My mom, nanny, and best friend came to visit me. My dad visited me too, once, but he was so wrapped up in his girlfriend that he only stayed for 5 minutes. My dad made me and my brother so many promises, but he never kept them. I wanted him to be a proper dad, and I wanted his love and acceptance. I thought I would earn it if I moved in with him. I stayed for a week. I spent every night in tears, and I really hurt my mom. My mom said that it wasn't my fault that I was so caught in the middle and messed up. But to this day, I still feel kinda guilty. A year after we moved, I had been in an on and off 5-year relationship which ended that year. A few months after, I was in a new relationship. It lasted 2 weeks. We stayed friends. He is now one of my best friends. After a while, I became very depressed, and I had fallen for my best friend. But he was with someone else. It really hurt. But I did get over him. But I was never satisfied with being single. I was always looking for a boyfriend. I also looked for guys online. One guy out of the blue called me an unloved whore. I've never slept with anyone, but I believed it. I believed I was unloved, and I didn't think anyone cared. All I could was this voice telling me I was a burden. It was coming up to New Year's, and I got one of my friends to set me up. He was her boyfriend's best friend. When New Year's Eve came, my friend's boyfriend started chatting me up. He told me they had broken up. He said anything I wanted to hear, and I am ashamed to say I flirted back. After about an hour, he told me that none of it was true and that his best friend put him up to it. It hurt so much. I was completely broken. I cried myself to sleep that night. When my friend found out she took their side, she said it was my fault and it didn't take long for me to believe it. I also started to blame myself for other things as well. Like my parents fighting all the time. People began calling me a freak on Facebook, and I cost my mom a lot of money due to the fact I was a bedwetter, and cost my mom hundreds in mattresses. I messed up a lot at home. I couldn't do anything right. I would often got called stupid, and my grades in school soon dropped. I hated myself, so I started to cut myself. I never drank or took drugs, so the only thing I could think of to ease the pain was to cut myself. Although the cuts weren't that deep, they were noticeable, so I wore long sleeve tops to cover them. I would cut myself regularly. It became an addiction. I'm really ashamed to admit it, but I also turned to porn. But I'm free of that now. I really did hate myself. I was such a mess. A couple times I tried to take my life, and many times I wished I died on the night of my asthma attack. I felt like nothing. Like no one would want me, which I had been told several times. I thought that all I did was bring bad things to people. Like I was a bad thing and people would be better off if I didn't exist.
If stories like this resonate with you and you believe in honest, faith-centered conversations, please consider subscribing to the channel. We'd love for you to be a part of our growing community. Now, let's get back to the story.
One night I had a huge fight with my mom and she threatened to kick me out. I know she didn't mean it, but I just had enough. I ran up to my room and broke down in tears. I really wanted to cut. I wanted to go deep and make them bleed this time, but instead I prayed for the first time in a long time, and I'm not sure why, but I'm glad. That very moment I felt something go through me. I can't explain it, but I had lost all urges to harm myself. I still had thoughts of ending myself, but I had no intention of carrying them out. I'm not sure what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was God. Not long after that, I started attending events with YI, youth initiatives. Matt, my youth leader, asked me if I was interested in being a volunteer. I didn't really understand why he asked me to be a volunteer, but I was glad and said yes. I'll admit I was pretty messed up. But it felt good that there was people that wanted me to be a part of a great group of people. Honestly, I don't think I deserved it. It wasn't very long after I started a new relationship. He was my partner in expressive arts class, and we went to the school formal together. But after a couple months, he started to essay me. I didn't know what essay was, so I didn't know, but I thought I had to let him do it, and I probably would have given myself to him. But a few months later, I attended a camp with YI, where I meet a man called Justin Fatika. He was the speaker at camp. The 16 and over girls had a session with him, and he taught us to keep ourselves until we meet a guy who is willing to wait until after marriage, and that we shouldn't be with a guy if he's not treating you with respect. Camp was very emotional for everyone. Everywhere you turned, someone was crying. But it was an amazing experience. I felt such relief. I now knew that God loved and He cared. I had been running from Him for so long that I forgot. I gave my life over to Christ that weekend, this time wholeheartedly, 13th August 2011. I got up and asked God for forgiveness, and I thanked Him for the cross. I couldn't help but cry. I could barely talk. I felt so overwhelmed that God had forgiven me for everything. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has rescued me. After I confronted my boyfriend, he completely ignored me, so a few weeks after I ended it, I started building a positive relationship with my dad. I don't fight so much with my mom, and for the first time in years, I'm satisfied with being single. Although I still struggle with depression, I couldn't be happier. God was with me every step of the way, waiting for me to come to Him. He brought me out of darkness. I want to finish by sharing a verse that has really stuck with me. Romans 8:31. Through all of this, what can we say? If God is for us, who can be against us? Blessings and love to you all.
Sarafina's testimony is a powerful journey through childhood pain, rejection, and deep loneliness that followed her into her adolescence. Now, growing up in a fractured home, she carried wounds that she didn't know how to express. She was searching for love and validation in places that continually hurt her. She battled depression, self-harm, shame, and the heavy lies that often spoke over her life. But everything changed the night that she reached her breaking point, and she whispered a simple prayer. The first one she had done in years. In that quiet moment, God met her exactly where she was. The urge for self-harm was lifted, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a spark of hope. Her journey forward was shaped in a meaningful way by youth ministry. Sarafina found mentors who believed in her, peers who understood her, and a community that offered her encouragement instead of criticism. Youth ministry gave her a place to belong. It gave her a place to heal and the confidence to discover her God-given worth. Life-changing encounter at a youth camp, it helped her clearly see the love, value, and purpose that God had for her. Now, surrounded by people who treated her with respect and kindness, Sarafina made the decision to surrender her life fully to Christ, not out of pressure, but from a genuine experience of His grace. Now today, she continues to rebuild her life with courage and gratitude. Her story is a reminder that even when everything feels broken, God still reaches into the darkest places, and that a supportive community, especially within youth ministry, can play a crucial role in helping young people find hope, healing, and purpose. This video is for anyone who has ever felt unseen or forgotten. Sarafina's journey proves that God's love is still pursuing us, even when we feel far away from Him.